Hi, everyone.
Oh, look at all the faces. I'm so excited. Well, the names and faces. Hi, everybody. As we are getting connected to audio, I just wanted to let you know if you want to turn on your cameras, you can, but you do not have to. You can leave them off and just listen in. Also, if everybody will look at the bottom of their screen, there is a chat box. When you're welcome to ask questions as we go along, and we will be following those that you put in the chat box, or you can use the, is there a raise your hand? I think there's a raise your hand under the reactions, and then we will go ahead and call you and get you to take yourself off mute to ask your questions directly. Okay, I think it looks like most people are connected. So I'll go ahead and say hi again. My name is Lynette Davis, and I am a mentor here in the Click community. I've been with Click for, I feel like forever, as just a person wanting to learn how to use her phone. Oh, not phone. I know how to use the phone, how to use her camera. And then that progressed on to taking classes and getting to know the people, going to the different conferences, and then leading to what I feel becoming a Click Pro, and then leading to this, which I feel is one of the best things that I am able to do as a mentor here in the community, helping other people like I was helped when I first started. We have several other mentors on the call today who would join us, and I'd just like to get them to say hi real quickly and let them know and just welcome you guys. The first person we have is Christina.
Hey, how are y'all?
And then we also have Jenny R.
Hello.
Rosenberg. We have
Hi.
two Jennies. So, Jennifer Carr is also on the call with us.
Hey guys.
We have Dana Lee, who's also on the call.
Hi, everyone.
Ardell Newbert.
Hello, everyone.
And Sariana is also on the call today.
Hi.
Oh, and we have Carly. Oh, wait, we have Lori Pickens, who's here.
Hey everybody.
And we have Carly, who was going to be late, but she is here now. Yay.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
All right, great. So today we have that discussion that I feel like it's happened to everybody at some point, if not in photography, in another area of their life. And that's being in a creative rut. And what we want to talk about today is basically how to break yourself out of it. We know that there are a lot of things that cause it. It can be something as simple as the birth of a new baby, or the death of a loved one, or a big move to a different city and or country, things like that. We also have the world events that have happened. If you were like me, part of your creative rut has come with the world shutting down for 2.5 years and trying to figure out how to live in this new environment that we're living in. So, and then finally, there's always that happens with every creative, regardless of your genre, that confidence issues, where you have that confidence crisis. Am I doing the best work that I can? Does anybody like the work that I'm doing? Should I be concerned about them liking it or not? So we're just going to talk about a few things that we do individually as creatives that has helped us get past the not wanting to pick up your camera, or not feeling confident in the type of images that you're making. So to start off the discussion, I'm just gonna state the obvious. If you're in a rut, acknowledge that you're in a rut and understand that that's okay. It is a normal part of the cycle of being a creative. If you continue to do the same exact thing over and over and over again, you are no longer creating. So sometimes your brain will just tell you, stop I don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over again. I want to experience something else. And so part of that is giving yourself permission to maybe stop and do nothing for a while. And recently we had a wonderful mindful discussion that was led by Jennifer Carr. And I would just like her, if she doesn't mind, to talk to us a little bit about that, how you can use that to help reinvigorate your creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Lynette. We did earlier this year, we had a mentor Zoom like this where we all talked about mindfulness and photography. I definitely see some people on here who were there. So thanks for being here again. For me, as both a yoga instructor and practitioner and mindfulness leader, as well as a photographer, it's really just important to help clear your headspace when you have all of the things going on running through your brain. Like picture the 3 o'clock wake up call when you can't go back to sleep in the middle of the night because everything's just running through your brain. That can happen while you're out trying to take pictures as well. And so just finding a way to be present in the moment that you're in, as opposed to allowing the to-do list and what you're supposed to do next and what you're going to make for dinner and what you said to the person when you think you hurt their feelings yesterday, or the way you talked to your mom this morning on the phone, or the laundry that you forgot to switch over before you left the house. None of that's going to help you be a creative. So tuning into your environment, really concentrating on the moment that you're in rather than all of those other moments surrounding it is especially helpful. And while you wouldn't necessarily think that that's a direct way of breaking out of a rut, it's certainly a way to help you push through some of those creative obstacles when you feel like you're not capable of creating. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you so much. And that is important. It's kind of like focusing on yourself a little bit more and understanding that you are the most important person when it comes to this creativity thing, not something someone else is telling you to do, but it has to be coming from within you. And so in looking at that and taking that into consideration, another thing we have to be is really open to change, to doing something different, moving in a different direction, if that's what we're being told to do by this rut that we're trying to get out of. And I think, Sariana, you've been experiencing this just a little bit and trying to do different things and changing from one area to another. Do you want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, sure. So for me, it took me a few months to actually realize that I wasn't in a rut. I started thinking that, I started clicking pictures around my house, lesser and lesser. And then I was thinking that, I was in a rut. But then later, whenever we went on trips, I realized that, in a day, I would click around like 1,000 pictures. So, and at that time, I realized that I wasn't really in a rut. I just didn't like clicking pictures around my house. It's like I used to click a lot of pictures of my daughter. And then slowly when she turned 7, 8, she started getting very conscious about pictures. And then, so I didn't want to pose her for the pictures then because it won't look authentic. At the same time, the whole of my family is very self-conscious and they don't like me clicking like documentary pictures. They just think that I'm invading their privacy. So I don't do documentary pictures of my family at all. So it's like I was stuck. I didn't have a subject kind of like who would do like natural things for me to, click pictures of. So that's when I, started street photography also. And I thought I really liked it. But, we're just a normal family. Like every day, it's not possible for me to get out to a city and then do street photography. I live in a very small city. There's really nothing much happening in terms of street here. Like you hardly see people outside. So you really need to get out to a big city and then, walk around the city and then click pictures. And then, so for me, all this, like I'm just summarizing in like 2 seconds now, but then it all took several months for me to figure out that I wasn't in a rut. It was more like because my interests have changed, my genre has changed, and then I don't get to go out and then do the kind of pictures I want to do often. So that really helped me feel better about myself and my art. But until I arrived at that point, it was really hard. I was thinking that, my photography is dead. I'm never going to click another picture again that that I love and all that. But even knowing that, it is not easy, I would say, but I still now I try to take time and then go out to London probably once a month or something, and then click pictures, and immediately I feel better. So yeah, so this was a rut created by change, I would say, like change in genre and change in subjects, like my kids not wanting to be click pictures of. So yeah.
So you felt more comfortable, because I have that when I feel like at 14 or 15, my favorite muse, my son was like, no more pictures. I have to approve every single picture that you take at this point. I'm kind of using that against him now that he's 18. And I'm like, you signed off a forever model release. You didn't know it, but as your mom, I signed it off for you. So I can take pictures of them now, but it's hard when our kids either start growing or saying that they don't want, and what we were shooting before suddenly is not what we can shoot now. I know I found that out kind of like with my happy spot is macro photography, because I got tired of them telling me no and starting to shoot something else. And I think Amy, that's kind of how you got into food photography too, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. I kind of got into photography when my kids were, I want to say, middle school, early high school. And that's the, oh, get out of my face. You walk in the room and you have a camera in your hand and they like dive into the covers, and take cover, and don't you take a picture of me, So needless to say, people weren't my initial, I practiced on them. My husband would actually entertain me and help me a little bit every now and then, but I had to find something else that was readily available, that I liked, that, and then food kind of dropped into my lap, which that made a lot of sense. I love looking through magazines and cookbooks, and, that's kind of where that all started. So, yeah.
Yes, I love your food pictures. I really wish I could be an assistant, just to eat up all the stuff that you have out there. But it's nice because you're a baker too, so you kind of combine the two genres together. And so that's something to think about. If there's some other activity that you really like, for instance, I am the mother of a theater kid, so I love going into and doing theater pictures. And I know we have another mentor, Kate Luber, who's basically the same thing. She's taken her past life as a ballet dancer / instructor and turned it into a whole dance photography genre. Sometimes those things are a little scary to take on, but it's good because you're challenging yourself to do something else outside of the box. And so that leads me to bringing in my friend Dana to talk about challenging yourself to learn a new skill or thinking outside the box with your photography. And she recently took a wonderful trip that some of you may have seen on her Instagram to Morocco and Portugal and a couple of other places.
With
Dana,
Carly.
with Kylie, that's right, with Kylie. So I said Kylie, Carly. I have a Kylie in my life, and then I have a Carly in my life. So Carly and Dana, I would love for you both to talk to us about one, the thing that I know, how hard it was to just whip out your big camera every 5 minutes, and two, how that experience helped you try to learn a new skill and then think outside of the box with your photography.
Yeah, so hi everyone. So I love this discussion because I'm currently, I would describe myself in a creative rut. And I love just getting to see everyone's faces and voices and raising our hand and saying, me too. I get it, I've been through it. And so to answer your question, Lynette, Carly and I went to Portugal and Morocco. And during that time, I really wasn't picking up my big camera and using it a lot. Similar to what you were saying, my kids don't really, I pretty much do all children photography and they don't really want me photographing them. And so was just feeling a little bit lost. And so I have been challenging myself the last couple of years to get out my camera when I travel. And there's something about having my cell phone in my hand that makes me feel a bit more present than like a big camera. It's just lighter, less to carry around. And then when we were in Morocco, you really can't have big cameras right in people's faces for street photography. You kind of have to like shoot from the hip and be a little discreet because in their culture, they just don't like cameras. So it was just a fun challenge. I felt myself like so creatively inspired because I was doing something new. I think travel is a great way to get out of a creative rut, whether you're doing what Saranya said and going to like a closer big city or going across the world. Getting yourself immersed in a different city or culture with different sights and sounds and smells and is just a great way to be inspired. So when I was there, I just kind of was like, I'm going to be a street photographer. And this is someone who has never done street photography. I follow a lot of street photographers who are super inspiring, but you know, we all study light and composition and those things, and they can be applied to so many different genres. So I think a lot of times we don't step outside of the box because we think this is my box and this is what I know how to do. But we all have a skill set that can be, you know, plucked out of the box and open a new box to try that skill set in. So it was fun to be inspired by the people and the culture. And I came home just really inspired, maybe to bribe my kids a little stronger to let me take their pictures, but I just felt really inspired to come home and continue to create. So I think stepping outside of your box and doing something new that is challenging kind of you and feels really different is a great way to grow as an artist and photographer and kind of find your creativity again.
Excellent. Carly, what was your impressions of the trip?
Oh, hello. I find it, I take pictures every day. I've taken pictures every day for 7 years. And it's funny because people talk about a rut, and Dana and I have had conversations where she says she just doesn't pick up her camera. And I always pick up my camera, but I think you can still be in a rut of sorts and still pick up your camera. I continue to pick it up, and some days I'm like, oh, like nothing feels like it clicks. It doesn't, I mean, I take a picture, but it doesn't speak to me. It doesn't sort of fill your creative cup in a way. And it's so liberating and fun to go to a place where every single thing you see fills your cup. You know, you're like, oh, I just want to take pictures of everything. And I found that that's what, you know, and for me, it was so far out of my comfort zone. I hadn't traveled without my girls at all. And so this was like a completely different experience. So it's, I guess for me, it's exciting to, and my camera actually broke. Turned out it just needed the screws tightened while we were on our trip. So I had to use my cell phone. And I don't generally take pictures with my cell phone. So that was, it was nice to sort of be forced into it, to actually just have to use it. So it's, you know, and now I'm like, oh, I could go on a whole trip and just not bring my big camera. It's very liberating to not have to do that. I'm not sure if that answered your question at all, Lynette.
It actually does, because it gives people an understanding that they can use different tools, even though we are as photographers taught to take your big camera with you everywhere. You must have it. And even as they're getting a little bit smaller, you know, you can do with the mirrorless now and all of that. Sometimes it's just inconvenient, either the country that you're in or the culture that you're in, or, you know, but you always have that cell phone with you. And if you learn how to use it enough to take pictures for yourself, because what we're talking about are projects and things for ourselves, not necessarily for our clients. That memory on the phone is just as powerful as the memory that you took on your camera, because it's the memory that you're capturing and not necessarily the picture perfect, with the right amount of pixels and all of that. So yes, that did definitely help a lot. And along those lines, trying something different with not just a camera, but even maybe a different lens or a different area. And I know Lori, who's going to have to leave us soon because she has pickup duty today. But I wanted her to talk about both her film and her lens baby work and using different lenses to get different looks, because everything is just that helps with your creativity, and you can see it through her beautiful work. So Lori, if you have just a minute for us.
Yeah, I love both film and lens baby lenses for those reasons. Film, I think film, because you don't get the look at the back of the camera option right after you take the picture. I think it, being the type A control freak that I am, you know what I mean? You kind of let go of some of that. Oh, did I do it right? Or did it look the way I want? It's kind of, you think things through, you take the picture and you're like, hope for the best. You know what I mean? And just the process of, well, each snap of that button cost me $1 between, buying the film and processing and those kind of things and shipping. Like, I think I'm more intentional with my film. So I'm not just like out there like, oh, you kind of think through your process more. So I think that's why I end up loving my film images more, because I put more thought in them up front. Lens Baby is just so fun because, again, it takes you away from like that perfection thought of, oh, am I gonna this or that? You're not thinking about all the things that you have trained your brain to try and control. And you're more like, oh, well, this is a fun new toy. Like, what am I gonna do? I know I just went to a retreat with Dana and Deanne, and I shot like half of the day, half of our different day shoots on my Lens Baby things, because I think in client sessions, I get hung up on, I have to produce for them. And I'm like, oh, well, Lens Baby's harder to manual focus and harder this, where, these shots were mine. And if I got great ones, then great. And if I didn't, that's okay too. So it kind of gave me that freedom to really like Edge 80 are beautiful portraits. Like we had some client models and they're gorgeous images. And I'm like, why don't I do this all the time? But it's kind of that freedom to play, to let go of the control things that we all tell ourselves and the perfection that we feel like we have to live up to, and create the magic without it.
Yes. And I think that's so important to understand, is that it doesn't have to be perfect. And part of what puts us in that rut is the idea of what other people are thinking. And I know for me, I'll post a picture and I'll look at it or get ready to post a picture. Can I just say Instagram is the devil, or putting stuff out there, but that's me personally. You still do it because, one, it's nice to know, but it's nice to have stuff out there and see people doing it. But the bad part of it is you're so worried about, did anybody like it, or are they talking about me later on? And the older I get, the easier it is to kind of let go of those things. Once you pass that half-century mark, I think two things happen. One, you start thinking about, we're here, I have less time on this earth than I did before. And two, while affirmations from others is important, affirmation from yourself is much more important, because yourself is the one that you have to live with to the end. I don't know if I said that, if I articulated that exactly how I wanted it, but the point being is, if you haven't figured that out from this discussion, it has to be about you and the joy that you get from doing what we do. And I just wanted to look at the idea as what Lori was saying, when we have clients, and I don't know if some of us are in the business, some of us are not. But when you have clients, you're worried about perfection for the client. If you're not in the business, you're worried about perfection for, getting perfection from others. And some of this, in terms of creativity, has to come from within and worrying about satisfying ourselves. So if it's not in focus, but it's a beautiful picture, it's hanging on the wall, as you can see behind me right now. It's framed. There's so many things technically wrong with this picture of my son, but it's like 13 and playing with bubbles in a different way that every time I look at it, it makes me absolutely happy. So every morning when I come down the stairs, I see it. Every day when I come into my office to start doing work, I see it. And it reminds me of what brings me joy and why I shouldn't be so concerned about what everybody else is saying. And I kind of went off on a little tangent there, which I did not intend to do, because that leads into the fear of failing. But that does lead me into my next topic, which is the fear of failing at doing something that you want to do. So I am going to actually go to Jenny on this one. Jenny R. Yes.
Sorry not to interrupt. Before we move on, I just saw Dana has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dana. I can't see. There it is. I see the hand.
That's okay. I just wanted to add to the conversation that was happening in the comments. And I think it was, I'll have to go back and look, was it Ashley was saying that, some health stuff came up for her. And I just wanted to kind of add to that bit of the conversation that I think if anyone's going through a creative rut right now, or they've been through a creative rut, when I start to feel like myself getting in there, it's really just like a big sign that's telling me, like flashing and pointing, saying, it's time to check in with yourself. Sometimes I think creative ruts come from just crisis. Like life is a juggling act, right? Like we're juggling all these balls in the air. And if we're really creative and creating like our best work, there's probably a lot of balls that we're dropping. Like my laundry isn't getting done. My house is messy, like, because I've got this thing and it's like, amazing. And then when I'm not feeling creative, it's because maybe other things have to take the priority, whether it's like, my family needs me more, or my home needs me more, or there's a crisis that's happened with health or personal struggles, or, or maybe the check-in with yourself is that you're just bored. So I think that's where it comes, maybe like, how can I challenge myself to do something new? So I just wanted to do I see you, I acknowledge you. Sometimes, anyone who's feeling like I'm in a creative rut, but my life won't allow me to be creative right now. And that's okay. There's a season for everything. And right now, for me personally, I feel like I'm just need to get into my gratitude more. And that's where I'm going to find my creativity. So we started it at the retreat that we were just on of a gratitude journal, and every day waking up and just kind of pouring out some gratitude. And I think that, just for me personally, that's where I'm going to find my creativity. Everyone else will find it a different place. I just wanted to acknowledge that life is a big, hard juggling act, and it's okay if you're dropping the creativity ball right now.
Yes.
So that's all.
Yes, and that is so important. Thank you, Dana, for bringing that back up, because it goes back to what we said at the very beginning. Sometimes you just have to stop, put your camera down and focus on you and be okay, except what is it? Say that it's okay. It's okay to drop the balls. I think that I'm doing that right, Jennifer. You say, Jenny, you say it's okay. You acknowledge that the ball has dropped. You say it's okay that the ball is dropped. And then you move on to the next thing. You make the decision whether you want to pick it back up or leave it on that ground for a little while and go do something else. All of that's okay, because all of that is a part of mental health and your mental health well-being. You can't do everything, and that is okay. Jenny R. Rosenberg, I wanted you to talk about how your love for doing what you want to do. And I think you said something also in the chat just a minute ago, that it's important, and I can't find it because it just left me, but doing what you want to do and letting go of the fear of failing in doing it. Because as creatives, as women, as moms, as sisters, as mothers, as friends, we take on a lot, and it's all with the underlying fear, going back to that ball dropping, that we're going to drop a ball, that we're going to fail somebody at something. But I want to talk about how we move past that and start enjoying what we're doing. And if Jenny wants to jump in on that, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So dark here, I can barely see myself.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, so when it comes to perfection, I think that for me, I am not a very technical person, so I just had to let that go at a very early stage in my photography journey, because I am never going to read the entire manual. I'm never going to learn all those things. And I'm okay with that. I don't really care. I care about perfection in other ways. I'm extremely picky with light, and I'm extremely picky with other things, but that's okay, because that is a kind of perfection that doesn't stress me. It's a kind of perfection that motivates me. So I guess you kind of have to find that if you're doing something and it makes you feel bad, don't do it. I have been thinking a lot about that lately when it comes to Instagram, because as much as I love the community and I love posting photos and I love engaging with other people, sometimes when I put, this is so stupid, I'm 43 years old and I'm still getting caught up in this, and I post something and I'm like, oh, I love this photo, and I get no engagement at all. I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks, and I have been thinking a lot about that, and I just no more. I am going to post what I like, and because to me, if I post something on Instagram, it's perfect to me. I love it. I wouldn't show it if I didn't. So yeah, it's finding what's important for you. For some people, I'm sure it's super important to get the exact correct white balance and all that. I don't care. I want photos that speak to me. So yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense, but
it does. And it's actually perfect, because in the what you just said was, when I post something, it was important to me. It was beautiful to me. And that is so necessary, because we need to put it out there if we love it. And it should be because we loved it, not necessarily because we're trying to get more likes. And one other thing about Instagram that I want to say, the bullying aspect of it is just tiring to my soul, in terms of if Jenny or I or anyone, any of you post something, the only comments that should be under there are "good job," "this is beautiful," "this was great." Anything other than that has nothing to do with you, but has to do with somebody else who woke up that morning either with a bad attitude or just determination to do bad things for the day. So letting go of that part too is so important for our mental health. If that person cannot come up to you and give you a hug every single day, or when we see each other at a conference or something like that, they are not important in the big scheme of life. And there's no need to engage with them, because that's how you tell somebody that they're not important. You just don't engage with them. And so I really, that's kind of a sidebar to the getting out of a rut conversation, but I feel like it's so important to understand that your power is your power, and the only way that it can be taken away is if you give it away. And engaging is one of those things that I believe is allowing someone else to have power. And I just want you to know that if I'm ever commenting on a thing, it is to acknowledge the beauty of the moment and your courage for actually posting something, putting yourself out there, and allowing us to have an opportunity, the world, to be a part of your moment. So keep that in mind if somebody is on there. There is somebody, we are out there cheering for you regardless. So wow, I'm so excited about this conversation, and I hope that everybody, I'm trying to keep up with the chat as well as my notes and going through, but I'm just so grateful to be able to have this conversation right now, because it is just filling me with joy and hopefully helping me to continue to do better work too. So let's talk personal projects. Because I feel like we've done a lot of talking about general stuff, but starting personal projects or something tangible that you can do. I want to talk with, get Christina in on this. She's doing our 365, plus she's done a lot of other personal projects that I would like her to talk about. And then we're going to open it up for questions for everybody to come in as they want, okay? Christina, if you will talk to us about personal projects and how they help you with your rut.
Sure. So I guess I should probably start by kind of talking about my own personal ruts that I've been through, because like everybody, it's helpful to hear from other people and what their experiences have been. I feel like I have kind of been in a bit of a rut for what feels like going on probably 3 years. It started with, like many of you, being really excited, photographing my children at home, young kids, and but finding it hard to find the creative angles day in and day out when I felt like I was stuck at home. And I picked up my 365 project, the first one in 2018, which I've continued ever since then. But that's what it was just like, how can I find a little bit of creativity in what feels like a really mundane part of my life of barely leaving the house with little kids? So I felt like, I was starting to get there and kind of climb out and get to that creative edge, and then COVID hit. And once again, I'm still in my house. I haven't broken out of that. In fact, I'm deeper in than ever. So it became even more of a challenge. Like many of you, just kind of feeling myself in that bit of a rut. And a few projects kind of emerged from that time period, because one of the things that I find that's amazing with creativity is a lot of times the more constraints we have on that creativity, sometimes the more it will develop. So all of a sudden, I found myself in these walls that I was so familiar with and so sick of, and sometimes just almost photographing them out of like just disgust that I was seeing them still, and out of that developed a project of just documenting what felt like the same thing day in, day out, and then putting it all together at the end of the year and seeing how, even though things felt the same, how different they were from day to day, and seeing that little bit of beauty. So that, it's, I think one of the things whenever you're coming up with projects is sometimes projects come to us in grand gestures, and we can think of them and they're big things, and sometimes they just kind of creep up on you. And it can be just little threads that you pick at, and you start seeing that you're photographing again and again and again, and then it'll develop. Another one that I did during COVID, and it seems so stupid and so obvious at the time, but I was, I'd go on walks and I'd see those little face masks all over the ground, litter. And I just started photographing them. It wasn't terribly original. It wasn't a lot of things, except that, I had to figure out how to compose them to be interesting. I ended up like printing them, and they were for myself of day in, day out. Here, all
how cool is that?
And it's nothing, but it's an interesting documentation. And my kids, maybe they'll find it interesting someday to look through of what did this period look like in my mother's eyes. Then going into this year, started feeling like I was pulling myself out of that rut again, and bam, I got a cancer diagnosis. So my latest creative rut has probably been the most challenging, of just a chemo infused brain fog that I'm still in. And I think like that conversation that was going on about health earlier is so important, because I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be all the things. And I feel lucky that even in the midst of cancer, I was still thinking about creativity and wanting to be creative and find it in myself. I feel like I was pretty lucky with that. But you have to learn to be kind to yourself. Sometimes I put this pressure on, why can't I create what feels like a single inspired image? And I realized, I would never talk to somebody else that way. I would never say those things. If I had a friend that was going through what I was going through, I would never say that. I would say, take care of yourself. Understand that this is just part of a cycle. This is part of life. Do what you need to do. But I want to talk to myself that way. And I think a lot of times we find ourselves in that comparison trap. Like again, with Instagram, we see other people's best work. Like Jenny said, we put out our very best, our most favorite, the ones that we are in love with. But we make the mistake when we're viewing that's all that other people are putting out. That's all that they create. We don't see that backside and what they're going through as well. It's all a process. So anyway, this year has been, again, pulling those threads. It's not inspired images, but I've been documenting this year and the journey. And right now it's as simple as like just documenting my hair growth. It's something that pulls, makes me pull out my camera each day and document something. And I think at the end of it, even if I don't feel like I'm moving forward all the time, I think I've said it before, but it's like you take little steps every day and then you look back and you realize that you've come further than you ever thought you would. But it's only by getting out there, putting something out there to work with, because if you don't take those images, you don't have anything to work with. So
There you go.
yeah.
That is that. So one of the things that actually motivates me are people who inspire me. Christina knows that she is one of them. I just love her to death. But to continue on with you, and sometimes life puts us in a situation where we're forced to slow down. Other times we make that choice to slow down. But the fact that you can still see that there's still beautiful things out there to strive for. And sometimes that's all we can do is strive for the next thing. But we have to, as Christina said, keep going after it. Even when you don't, we're just so tired that you don't want to. So thank you, Christina, for sharing that with us. We are coming up towards the end. So I wanted to open it up for questions. And I also wanted to I want to open it up for questions right now. That's what I want to do. So if anybody has any, and while we are looking for hands, and Julia, if you'll help me make sure that I find anybody, there are a couple of things that I want you guys to go to the chat and make sure you look at. Lori and Julia have put in there several things that links to different things on the forum that you can look at to help burst your creativity. Also, remember that we have a 365 project, which Christina is leading this month. It's every single month. There's somebody there from the mentor team who will help and encourage you. If you are like me, you start a 365 project and then realize in day 10 that this is not what, this is not you. This is not what you can commit to. There's also the P52. I think I said that right. Is it P52? Yeah, where you do one a week.
Yes.
Or there is another creative project where you do an 8-hour, or you pick a number of hours in the day and you take a picture every single hour. You just force yourself to do it. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you've shot and then you kind of look at them and put them together. There's that project. One other, going outside of the shooting every single day, Chandra, we also have personal projects that are special. My goal, now that we are able to go back out, is to find my friends whose mom and grandmother and daughter are still with them and do a generational project. One of my biggest regrets is that I did not pick my camera up in time enough to get pictures, a lot of pictures of my mom with myself. We just didn't. There are 50 million pictures my dad took of my mom by herself and of us kids, but very few of all of us together. So I think that is one of the things I'm going to put together. I have another friend who did one where they volunteered at a nursing home and had a friend who was a makeup artist who volunteered, and he had them come in and get everybody all beautiful and take those pictures for the nursing home walls and for their families. So personal projects like that, that you have a vision for and you can invest time in, maybe those are something to think about too. So I don't see any hands right now. So what I'm going to do is we're going to head into the wrap up, but please know that you can jump in at any time. And our final thing, and what I want everybody to speak on, is my favorite thing, which I need to change my board up here too, is that no is a complete sentence. And what I mean by that is we take on so many things and we believe that we should be doing so many things that we don't have to do. Time is finite, so you need to make each minute count. And so for me, I am no longer being hired for pictures that I don't want to do. I don't do families. I don't care for them. I want portraits where I'm in complete control of everybody who's in the portrait. And so those are what I'm going to do for my business. For my personal life, I'm going to just start taking pictures of the moment and not worrying about technical difficulties, because that's what I want. I want my grandchildren to have memories. And so I would like to run through our mentors and just give your advice on that. And so we're going to start, as I see you on the thing, Dana.
Lynette, would you mind, what are we giving advice on? Just getting out of a creative rut?
No is a complete sentence.
No is a complete sentence.
Yes, no is a complete sentence. Sorry.
I'm still learning that.
We had this discussion.
I'm just keeping it real. I'm 42 and I'm still learning that no is a complete sentence, but I do find that when we say no to one thing, we get to say yes to another. And so I'm learning that when I say no, to really focus on that was a hard no, but look at all that I get to say yes to. And sometimes that's my own creativity. Sometimes that's my own family. But I could imagine the one of the biggest ways to burn out creatively is to say yes to things you don't want to say yes to. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
it does.
I'm a work in progress.
There are no right or wrong answers to this, but that is basically how to stem our creativity, is by letting go of things that we don't want to do, pretty much. Carly? Uh-oh.
I'm here. I just have Zoom incompatibility. Not very good at it. But I just, can you hold on? Now, see, incompatible. Here I am. I wanted to raise my hand mostly just because I have to go grab Tessa from school. And something that I feel about saying no to things is figuring out what holds value to you and how you decide what is valuable. Because for me, it's not, what's valuable to me is that my photography brings me joy, that it gives me an outlet. It's not so much about making money for me. It's not about getting famous. It's not about having more likes on Instagram. It's about what brings me joy. And so the more I've learned to see what I value, if it doesn't align with my values, then I need to say no to it, even if it's sometimes really hard to do that. So that's sort of how I decide what things I need to say no to, if that makes sense.
It does. Perfect. Hug Tess for us. Christina?
Yes, I am really bad at saying no. And in the past, I've, tried to incorporate all the yeses that I possibly can, and have definitely dealt with burnout in the past. So this year, in addition to kind of narrowing down the scope of the sessions that I'm accepting to be ones that are more in line with what I want to do, I am trying to say no to just overbooking myself, which has been a hard one. Fall season, I try to work everybody in, but I am actually sticking to my schedule so far of these are the sessions, these are the slots that I have, and it's no beyond that. And I think that's helping so far with the burnout. So, yeah.
Excellent. Jenny Carr?
Hello. Yeah, like Dana, I'm definitely a work in progress. I spent much of the last couple of years in a situation personally where I wasn't really able to say no to other people. So I have really been focusing the last month or two on saying yes to myself instead of so much saying no, so to speak, if that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. And making myself the top priority as opposed to just, saying other people kind of come first. And in that respect, that allows me to align what comes as a no or a yes after that. Does that make sense?
It does. It
Okay.
makes perfect sense.
Okay.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so just, saying yes to myself, and then from there deciding what I'm going to say yes or no to and what I have space left for. But like Christina just said, and then I was looking down because I wrote down what Jenny said, where she said, if you're doing something and it makes you feel bad, don't do it. And Carly saying that, find what aligns with your values. Like all of these things are just amazing pieces of advice that really solidify what you should be saying yes and what you should be saying no to. So thank you for that, Lynette.
Thanks. Well, you're welcome. And thank you for sharing. Jenny R.
Yeah, so unfortunately, saying no isn't one of my, I'm not very good at that. My husband was just saying like an hour ago that you need to scale back. You can't say yes to everything. So yeah, I'm working on that, but actually I do think it's super important, and I am going to work on it because I did burn myself out last year. I felt I had to stay home from work for weeks, and it was absolutely horrible, and it honestly terrified me. It was horrible, not having any control of your body or how you feel. So I think that saying no is definitely something you need to do to take care of yourself. And I am, like many others here, still a work in progress, but yeah.
Well, you are my light goddess. So you continue to bring that light and we will be just fine. Saranya?
So for me, one thing is what Jenny mentioned exactly about Instagram. Like it really messed with my head this year, and I didn't see any point in posting. But I'm not into business, and then so all I do is click pictures and then just post, not necessarily for likes, but it's just what I do. Like I create something and then I share, and then when no one's seeing, I didn't see the point in sharing. And when I wasn't sharing, I didn't feel like clicking. So it was like a cycle, and I didn't know how to get out of it. But then, like Jenny said, I thought about it, and then I gave myself permission to not post, and then I gave myself permission to click and not edit, and I also gave myself permission to post and run away and then not look at likes at all. So all these things really help. I don't know if it's really like saying no. And also another thing is that I have this really high standard for myself. And like every time I pick up my camera, I want to create a masterpiece. And then it's really not possible. And for me, that really messed again with my head. And I was like, every time I didn't get a good picture, I felt really deflated. And that affected the picture that I would click the next time. So it was like, again, another cycle. So I gave myself permission to take average pictures. And again, it's not exactly like saying no, but it's like I gave myself permission to create average art. And that helped me. And it is like a way of saying no, I would say, where like, you're saying no to expect really high things from yourself, like, and giving yourself permission to create. That's all, like, just for the sake of creating. So So kind of a roundabout way of saying no to things, I guess.
I love it. We have one more person. I'm going to get Amy to jump in real quick, and then we're going to have to wrap up the call.
As far as saying no, I had a hard time with that, especially when my kids were younger, because you want to be all things and be there for everything that they do and in every role and every capacity. And I think that's part of what, being a parent is at times. And then, however, as I've gotten older, whether it applies to my business and clients, how many I take on, or if should I eat that? Is that going to help me or hinder me? Should I sit there and watch TV or should I read a book? And how I use my time. And one thing we always taught our kids, I can hear this every time I kind of come up on a decision, is my decision going to take me closer to or further from my goal, whatever that goal may be, whether it's more self-reflection and time and filling out your gratitude journal in the morning, Dana, or in my case, I have hereditarily high cholesterol. Is that, corn dog, is that going to help me? Or is that going to help, it's just, or, just whatever decision we have facing us, that's how I kind of give it a little bit of a test is that going to help me or is that going to hurt me? Is it going to take me closer to or further from my goal, whatever that goal might be? And I hear that, and I hope our kids hear that in the back of their mind occasionally, because we kind of were like, you got to, if you're at a fork in the road, you got to take one. And, that kind of helps you gauge or weigh which way you're going to go. So anyway.
I think I'm going to have to do a replay with a notebook so that I can make sure I write down, as someone said in the comments, we need to write down everything that's been said here. I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart, my fellow mentors, everyone who's on the call, for being here today. If you take away nothing else, understand that being in a rut is normal for any creative. You have to accept it and acknowledge it, and then give yourself permission to move on and grow into a different type of creative, or more creatively in the area that you've learned. Dana posted this beautiful quote, which I think is the most appropriate thing to end this call on. And it's by Jess Sims. And she says, we can be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time. And I wish that I'd known that quote, because this probably would have been a much shorter mentor chat, because that just sums up every single thing that I want everybody to take away from this. You are a masterpiece right now, and you are who you are supposed to be. And we value that. And we are all still a work in progress. So that means that we can only get better. So thank you so much for joining us today. Julia, is there anything that I left out that we need to say?
I will just add first of all, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Lynette, for leading this really wonderful discussion. It's always such a treat to listen to these calls. I just want to let everybody know that this call was recorded, and if you came in late or you want to rewatch this so that you can write down some of these wonderful quotes, I will have the recording posted to the forum, usually within the next 24 hours. It's posted within the photography chat forum, and we now have a dedicated subforum with all of the monthly mentor video replays, so you can watch previous ones as well. And in case you can't find that link, no worries, I will send out an email tomorrow or even later today if we can get it up, probably tomorrow, with that link. And we'd love to keep the discussion going there if there's anything you want to add. And then in addition to that, all of the links that have been shared in the chat, I will drop those into that thread with this video as well, so that you can find all of these great resources to help you find inspiration and motivation and try new that didn't come out right. What am I trying to say? New creative projects. Okay. That about wraps it up. Thank you again, everyone. And we will post our October chat and topic shortly. And we hope to see you guys there.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.